Today I decided to give you guys a review of the new disaster film Twisters. This film is a sequel to the 1996 film Twister, which is one of my favorite films of the 90s, and quite possibly my favorite disaster film ever released. So does this new film live up to its original counterpart? Let's find out. Starting with the story. The film basically follows this character named Kate, played by Daisy Edgar Jones. There's going to be slight spoilers for the next minute or so, but essentially, her and her friends go out chasing a tornado with this new material that can potentially suck up the moisture inside of a tornado and potentially destroy it, making it disappear in its path. Unfortunately, Kate and her crew miscalculate the situation, and the tornado ends up being much stronger than they realized, and her friends all get killed with the exception of one, and she just barely escapes with her life. Several years later, that same friend who survived needs her help testing this new weather system out that can potentially track tornadoes even better and create a better warning system. Along the way, she meets a tornado wrangler named Tyler Owens, played by Glenn Powell. He's chasing tornadoes just for fun, and he has a YouTube channel which he streams the tornado chasing to. The way she finds out the people she's working for are somewhat corrupt, and exclusively joins Tyler and his crew as they try to eventually test out her material yet again in an attempt to stop tornadoes in their track. That's the basic gist of the movie. So now let's move on to the positives. First and foremost, it has to be the cast. The film actually starts with these Zoomer millennial types, and I really did not care for this crew. And when they actually got killed off by the tornado, I found myself laughing out loud. I didn't really mean to. It's just I really was not enjoying these characters, and it's almost as if the screenwriters heard my thoughts and immediately killed them off, and it made me laugh out loud. And several people in the theater were looking at me like I was crazy. But what can I say? I just really didn't like the characters. Thankfully, though, after that opening sequence, we get Tyler and his crew, and they're much more enjoyable and much more akin to the characters from the original film, and I like them a lot more. So all in all, the film does have a pretty good cast, with mostly likable characters, with the exception of the crew at the very beginning of the movie. Another positive of the film was the visual effects. The original film looks great, even by today's standards, and this new film does not disappoint. The tornadoes look very real. The weather effects are right up in your face. You'd swear it even feels sometimes like you're literally in the middle of a storm. And they do a damn good job utilizing CGI as well as practical effects to bring these storms to life. Another positive of the film is the story itself. While it's nothing complex, it's exactly what it needs to be for this kind of film, and it doesn't overcomplicate or convolute things. It just gets right to the point, and that really leads to a very interesting and entertaining disaster flick. Now that I've got the positives out of the way, let's move to some mixed aspects. And my biggest one would have to be this film's connection to the first film. With the exception of seeing Dorothy at the very beginning of the movie, which was the weather device they used in the first film, there's literally no other connections to that original 90s film. I don't think this film needed to be a full-blown nostalgia fest with every living actor coming back or anything like that, but I really would have liked at least Helen Hunt to have made an appearance. There's even a scene in the film where the main character goes to visit her mother. The main character is literally a blonde that wears tank tops, much like Helen Hunt's character. It even kind of looks like Helen Hunt. And when we finally get to see her mother, it's just the woman from ER. It was really disappointing, and I thought, why not just put Helen Hunt in that role? You could even give her the same lines, because the woman even kind of acts like Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt still acts. There's no reason they couldn't have at least thrown her in to make a nice connection to that first film. But instead, there's literally nothing. It's a sequel basically in name only. The first film still happened, mind you, because you do have like the connection to the Dorothy machine, but that little small cameo of that device, there's no other connections to that first film. And yes, it's a standalone sequel, but I feel like if you're going to use the name Twister and get butts and seats, you should at least tip your hat a little more to the original film, since you technically are a sequel. There's no shame in being a sequel, go ahead and be one. Still be your own thing like this movie does, but have a few connections, have a few cameos, have something that's like, oh yeah, that first film still happened. It's not a major gripe of mine, but it just kind of irked me. The only real negative I have with the film is that there's just no surprises. The story is very predictable. Literally everything in the film you know is going to happen. Nothing really gives you any sort of shock or surprise. It's all very to the point, which is fine. But on that same token, it would have been nice if they throw a few more curveballs in the story department, but it's just very straightforward. Other than that, though, I have no major gripes with the film. A few CGI shots here and there might look a little fake, but for the most part, it's a good looking film with a good cast, a fun story, and some really fun action. All in all, I'm going to have to give Twisters a 7 out of 10. It is almost an 8, but the fact that it neglects being a sequel and a somewhat predictable story, it's still very enjoyable. It's not perfect, mind you, and it's not as good as the original Twister, but if you do like the original Twister and you like to watch fun action disaster flicks, I think you will have fun with this film. It's one of the better disaster films out there, even though the bar for that genre is not very high. And I do recommend it to anyone who likes destruction and action and who enjoys the original. I thank y'all for watching. Let me know what you think about the film below if you've seen it. And peace out.